Leave France before 2030 and before it's too late. Today I wanted to share 25 reasons why French nationals should consider leaving the country of France before 2030. High taxes have plagued France for many years. France, a country that's part of the European Union, is also one of the highest taxed countries inside the EU. France Elite has considered raising income tax rates to 90%, meaning if you should reach the highest income threshold, you may have to pay up to 90% income taxes on the income generated. France is drowning in bureaucracy. Bureaucracy has long plagued Europe, and it's one of the key reasons why European businesses are going out of business. Starting a successful business in France is becoming nearly impossible in the 21st century. A country that was once free of regulation and high taxes has quickly embarked on a completely new journey where high income tax rate and regulations are killing businesses on a daily basis. Due to the lack of business opportunities in France, France is home to some of the highest unemployment rates in the entire European Union. Like Spain, Italy, and Greece, France is absolutely struggling with innovation in the 21st century. Protests and strikes have become the norm across the European country. There are too many things that French nationals are unhappy with in the 21st century, including the lack of job opportunities, the lack of cultural preservation, the lack of affordable housing, and many other key issues that are currently not being resolved in France. Cultural fragmentation is another big concern among many French nationals living in France as well as abroad. France is losing its culture, and this trend hasn't just started recently. Due to mass migration and lack of cultural adoption, France is losing its culture more and more day by day. Elevated crime rates are another big reason why you should consider leaving the country of France before 2030. Due to massive uncontrolled migration, France has seen an uptick in violent crime in the major metropolitans as well as rural areas across the country. Gang-related violence has become the norm in the European country, and many French nationals are completely concerned about their safety living in their native country. The cost of living crisis that's been affecting France for so many years now is another deciding factor why French nationals should consider departing their native country for a more prosperous destination in a different geographic location. The skyrocketing housing prices make it nearly impossible for middle-class Frenchmen and French women to afford their everyday life. It takes many years and sometimes even decades to save up for a down payment for a house, making it practically impossible to own real estate in the 21st century. Due to the mass influx of migrants into France's major metropolitans, housing prices have skyrocketed in recent years, making housing unaffordable for native Frenchmen and French women. The quality of public services in France is declining rapidly. Due to the ever-aging population and the very low birth rate, France is forced to open up its border to migration to fulfill labor shortages in the country. Services like public transportation, healthcare, and education are in decline as well, because fewer and fewer educated doctors and professionals are hitting the marketplace than ever before. Political polarization is plaguing the continent of Europe, including the once very traditional country of France. The political landscape that was once very much in alignment with traditional French values has changed into a landscape many French natives are no longer willing to accept. The population of France is increasingly more divided on many topics, including migration, job opportunities, and cultural preservation. Terrorism and security is another concerning point. Many French nationals consider leaving their native country for a much safer country overseas, including those in Southeast Asia and partially also in Latin America. Religious extremism is another reason why Frenchmen and French women are looking to depart their native country for good. Tensions have been soaring across the European continent, and France is also part of the deal. Economic barriers make it very difficult for entrepreneurs to get started with their entrepreneurial journey. Increasing regulation, higher taxes, and a lack of business opportunities are forcing very intelligent and innovative startup entrepreneurs to depart France for a more business-friendly environment in a different continent. To be fair, many French men and French women who are in business are actually departing for Eastern European nations that are less regulated than their native country. The overall deterioration of the quality of life in France is very visible. It is very apparent when you visit the country. Due to the unaffordability of everyday things, many French men find it difficult to maintain a decent quality of life living in France in the 21st century. The underfunded healthcare system is another reason why French men and French women are looking to depart France for good. It is true that the healthcare system in France is overstretched, and because fewer and fewer doctors graduate every year, there is a definite shortage of healthcare professionals in France, leaving the country with no other option than to increase prices, extend waiting times, and bring professionals from abroad into France. Overregulation affects the lives of so many French men on a day-to-day basis. Overregulation doesn't just have to surround businesses. Overregulation applies to many areas of life for those living in France, including financial surveillance, digital IDs, and many more aspects. Some argue that the education system in France is very much outdated, especially when compared to the education system in more advanced countries worldwide. Property tax burden is another reason why you should consider leaving France by 2030. The rise in property taxes make home ownership very difficult to nearly impossible for many Frenchmen. It goes much further. The cost of purchasing a home has become very, very difficult for everyday citizens of France. Rampant inflation, especially since the beginning of the past crisis, has led to many unaffordability. When you can no longer afford basic necessities such as housing, food, utilities, and energy, it is very difficult to preserve for future generations. The underdevelopment in rural areas is another reason why native French men and French women are looking to depart their native country for good. While France's major metropolitan Paris is home to many job opportunities, Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities struggle with providing the same job opportunities as France's major metropolitan. Public transport is not as good as it used to be in France, and the same can also be said about many southern European nations, where there is either a lack of public transport or where public transport is non-existing. With that being said, car dependency is rising across many European countries, including France. Last but not least, the possibility of a central bank digital currency engineered by the EU Parliament, in fact, the central bank of the European Union, is another reason why you should consider leaving France before 2030. Nothing scares people more than the possibility of being surveilled during all times and all days. Now that we have addressed the 25 reasons that are plaguing French society in the 21st century, how can you solve France's most common and current problems? If you have the financial resources, capacity, and opportunities to leave to a more prosperous geographic location, I highly recommend you to start looking into emerging countries like those in Southeast Asia and Latin America. To give you a few examples of countries you could move to preserve your purchasing power and achieve greater wealth while living in a country where your quality of life is not deteriorating but appreciating, I want you to consider the following geographic locations where immigrants from the country of France are very welcome. South America is home to some of the most liberal immigration policies in the entire world. This became very apparent during the past wars and crises that led to millions and millions of Europeans leaving Europe for Latin America, and more specifically South America. Countries like Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay offer amazing, easy entry residence permits to European nationals, including nationals of France. Some countries make it very unproblematic for you to obtain temporary residency or permanent residency without proving economic solvency. Paraguay, a country located in the heart of South America, makes it extremely easy for a Frenchman with a clean criminal record to obtain residency in the country located in the heart of South America. Paraguay is one of the rare exceptions left on the planet where you can obtain residency, assuming that you're from an allied country and have a clean criminal record. We don't know for how much longer this residency permit will stay in place, and if and when the Paraguayan government may decide to revoke this privilege for good. Argentina offers one of the easiest retirement visas in the entire world, especially to European nationals. Argentina is home to some of the most inspiring and uplifting sceneries, not only in South America, but worldwide. Due to European influence in Argentina, many Europeans have now made Argentina their new home, enjoying one of the highest quality of life at a fraction of the cost they used to spend in Europe. Likewise, Uruguay, the country that is also known as the Switzerland of South America, is home to one of the highest quality of life in the entire world. Unlike locations in Southeast Asia that make it very difficult to obtain permanent residency, and where you also have a difficult time obtaining foreign land ownership, company ownership, and many other privileges that we take for granted on a daily basis, Uruguay is one of the most liberal countries in whole Latin America. If this video inspired you to get out of France before 2030, before the 2030 agenda is fully implemented, I highly recommend you to book a consultation with one of the most sought-after relocation agencies in whole Latin America, Nomad Elite, where we help average people, middle-class Frenchmen, escape the tyranny that's being forced onto them in France and in the European Union to move to a more liberal and prosperous society in Latin America, where you can retain the same rights and privileges that you have back home. Please book a consultation with us today. In fact, book a consultation with me personally. You should see our website displayed on the screen. There's also a link added in the description of the video. I appreciate you watching this video. Thank you so much for your attendance, and I see you on the next video.